I'm also doing I'm doing high dose HCG and HMG. And when I got her pregnant the first time, I was on a grandma trend. So
Patrick O'Rourke asks an interesting question. He says, most underrated effect from any compound in any way, performance, cognitive function, etc. I'll go first. For me, the most underrated effect that nobody seems to talk about is Dianabol is an antidepressant for me. For most people, if you take a Dianabol, you feel great. I don't know how you guys' experience, but for me, it's one of the, that and then Proviron also has a resilience effect and a tenacity kind of short-term acute effect. What do you think, Boston? What's the effect of a compound that people don't think about?
I don't know, man. I don't feel anything anymore, to be honest with you. I don't. I don't feel anything anymore. D-ball doesn't affect me negatively. Trend doesn't affect me negatively. If I take too many drugs with my issue, by the way, I took a
we have to talk about the mushrooms, yeah. Also,
well, no, I took a pain pill, a fucking 15 mg per oxycodone, and I never used painkillers. And I got high. I ended up getting a really good workout, but when I was high, I decided to shoot 7 cc's of steroids.
When was this? Wait, what?
Last week. And, literally 5 days ago. And one of the cc's was trend suspension I shot. And dude, I felt fine. Like, I thought for sure the next day I was going to be puking and vomiting and feeling shitty. I put everything in my lats, dude. I was shocked.
Boston, wait a minute. We text every day. Why don't you send me this? Why don't you tell me this stuff? Let me look
I don't want to bombard you with dumb shit like that.
Anyway, Tony.
So basically, Leo, he would be texting you every day with something like that if you open that door.
I would love it. He's very entertaining.
I random shit all the time.
Exactly.
But Boston, what's the most understated compound? Like what? Because I'm curious what you think. What compound do you think deserves way more attention than it gets?
Oh, Masteron.
For what reason? For the look?
Yeah, I get a really good hardening effect, vascularity, and I think it's a very underrated compound that people should use even in their off-season cycles.
What do you think, Tony?
I think SARMs still deserve more attention. I think they've gotten a lot of attention, but I still think that they deserve even more attention because I think that, and my hypothesis at the beginning was, and I haven't been proven wrong, I don't think, that the weaker steroids, the slower long-term steroids, let's say equipoise, and I would have said Masteron, but that's interesting. Boston chooses that though. And Primobolan, for example, these sort of long-term, low side effect steroids that just are, keep you in anabolism all the time and decrease catabolism. Well, SARMs do the same thing with also far less side effects. So yeah, SARMs don't blow you up like a D-ball or an Anadrol, but they accomplish that long-term muscle gains without water retention and without many side effects, or with virtually no side effects for most people.
What's your favorite SARM? I just started the injectable S23 yesterday.
So I love S23. The only drawback with S23 is it's the most suppressive on natural testosterone. It's intended to actually lower fertility, which could be a great thing. I actually was using it before when I was trying to decrease my fertility. Like that was one of the purposes of using it. But I loved S23. I think for the value, the price, and for having no other side effects from it. And some of the best times I ever looked was when I was doing high dose S23. So with the testosterone base.
But it's not, Tony, it's not going to affect fertility any more than testosterone would, correct?
Dose dependent. So like, I actually, with testosterone doesn't hurt fertility that much at lower dosages, but then we go up higher at dosage and it does. And you take something like DECA or Tren, destroys fertility. So, it's more along the lines of sort of like a DECA or Tren as far as lowering fertility.
The reason why I ask is I'm currently trying for number 2. This is our first month, but I'm taking I'm on S23 and I'm on a bunch of other stuff too. But I'm also doing I'm doing high dose HCG and HMG. And when I got her pregnant the first time, I was on a grandma trend. So
Yeah, you might be offsetting it by taking the HCG and HMG and Clomid and all these type of things. I actually was trying to have another child recently, and did actually. She got pregnant and she miscarried.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just 4 to 6 weeks afterwards. But so it worked. I took just a break from gear, or I lowered the dosages. I never took it off. I just went down to TRT, and I took all these HCG, Clomid, HMG, a bunch of other stuff, and even with my low sperm count, I think 2.6 million, and normal is above 15 million. But even at 2.6 million, I was still able to get her pregnant. So you have to weigh that. It's not like your fertility just disappears completely. It just decreases. You still have millions of sperm.
It's crazy, man. Most of my fertility clients, I don't even touch their cycles. I just say, continue to take what you're taking, because I don't want to switch anything up. And I say, just add the HMG and HCG, and usually they have success the first either 1 to 2 months. It's crazy how strong that stuff is.
In fact, let's warn people. Actually, there may be a reason not to go off AAS when you're trying to have a child, because
I agree 100%.
Well, a couple of reasons. There's a reason that Boston's thinking, which is totally true also. But another reason is this. Think about this. If you've been on androgens for 2 years straight, or a year or whatever, your body has acclimated to the strong androgenic signaling. Once you take those androgens off, you're actually going to be hypoandrogenic. Even if your testicles produce androgens, your receptors have downregulated because of the high levels. So you're going to temporarily get less androgen signaling, which means your epigenetics will reflect a less masculine man. Temporarily. So if you're going to have a daughter, that's great. Like, I'm having a daughter in 10 weeks, hopefully. So that's okay. I was not on androgens at the time. I was probably a little, but if you're having a boy, it may be concerning. So for example, for a boy, what matters most is the father's epigenetics, but then the uterine androgenic environment. So if the mother has higher androgens, that's how little girls get PCOS. Which is a hyperandrogenic effect. But if the mother has high androgens, it's a boy. That's the limitation on stem cells for example, things like penis size, masculinity. It all happens in the mother's womb. And then when she gets out, the first 3 months, I don't know if you know this, Tony, a boy has testosterone levels almost as high as in puberty. First 3 months of birth, after birth. Yeah. And then it declines, stays declined until puberty. Now, another thing I wanted to mention, Tony, interesting thing about FSH and HMG is that it is actually trophic to the gonads. It actually can grow them, even in adulthood. And that's why FSH peaks in puberty. So what I've been doing recently is I've been using a lot more FSH. Like you were saying, people should use HMG more, because HCG will tell your gonads to produce testosterone, but it's the FSH that might heal them, that might actually grow them back potentially. I've seen the largest volume sizes changes in my gonads from FSH, not from HCG.
So Leo, what are you trying to do right now with your balls? You trying to get more fertility, or what?
No. What I'm trying to do is I had some slight testicle size decrease after the years on steroids that never fully came back. It's a slight difference. I wanted to recover that. And second of all, now I started using a little bit of testosterone for like resilience and energy and stuff like that. And I want to keep my gonads working perfectly for the future children and stuff like that. So now I'm keeping 75 units of FSH every other day. And it's really fantastic. And it feels great. I've had to lower my testosterone dose also because it's just too much. It's fantastic.
Yeah. In deep researching fertility and whether to stay on TRT or not, I found that some doctors will prescribe proviron and testosterone to hypogonadal men to help with their fertility. So, yeah, exactly. We don't want to come off completely.
Absolutely.